Alright everyone, this is Cob and this is Dueling with Cob, the series in which I duel you guys. Then I talk through the duels a bit, offer insight where I can, as well as mentioning good and bad things I did during each 1v1. In this episode I will be facing a Destro lock, a Fire Mage and a Rogue. Griggs is another Destro lock and we had a ton of epic duels, so it was hard to pick out which one to show. But in this one I start out the duel away from my portal and my pet, so we both don't get caught in fears, and so I can port away if he tries to land a Howl of Terror early. He starts out with a blanket and dukes a fear, and this means I'm just going to have to spell lock right away as well. I then push in for a Howl, which was a little bit risky to be honest, but I do get it off, and I'm expecting him to trinket or will this. So almost right afterwards I hit my portal, but I'm just a millisecond too late here and I get caught in a stun. I was pretty sure he was either going to Howl or Shadow Fury me with how close range I was. He fears me off with that. I wait until he's double casted it to try and avoid me being feared again. But after using Will, he spell locks and gets the follow-up fear anyways, so it was good play by him for sure. He then immolates and uses Dark Soul here, so I instantly pop Sacrificial Pact before I drop any health. Then I Dark Soul myself and lock him out, and I Shadow Fury here so I can chain off some Incinerates. I see that he's used Unending Resolve, but that's not worrying me too much. I feel his Dark Soul here was just to build Embers. I'm using the glyph of Ember Tap for this, so if I can build a few Embers up really early, I should be able to survive anything he throws at me, at least for a while. He Shadow Furies me into a fear here, and I can't trinket this right now, but my health is pretty high, and I see he's put up an Immolate, so now is a perfect time to Unbound Will to dispel both the fear and the Immolate. Now you can see I'm blanket silenced and he's charging another Dark Soul Chaos Bolt, but because I stocked up so many Embers, I'm able to spam Ember Taps and give myself the juiciest heal over time, and I'm actually going to survive this without popping any major defensives at all. Now I portal in here looking to land a Howl of Terror, and this was a mistake. I should have just waited for my Shadow Fury to be ready again, then landed probably a normal fear. But because I did this, he's going to get a Howl of Terror on me first, and that's going to get my trinket. I still do force his trinket after the Howl, but I did pretty much just throw away my own trinket there in the process. After that, it's back to incinerating, CCing, incinerating some more, and the Embers have to keep on flowing in if you want to outlive another Destro lock 1v1. At this point, I'm going to try and dodge his Shadow Fury. I can see he has it ready, but this is around the 5th duel that we had, so we were both learning how the other likes to play. I go for the portal, but he doesn't throw it out there and he lands it afterwards. I didn't have a whole lot to lose here by trying for this. Bit of a long shot, but it's awesome when it comes off. I get feared here and he starts doing to me what I was just doing to him, and that's chaining CCs and building Embers. But round about here I can't help but feel that this Chaos Bolt by him was a mistake. My Sacrificial Pact shield was still up, and it was ending in a few seconds, and to me, if you are behind on health as Warlock vs Warlock, you usually want to be using Embers to heal. Anyways, I'm looking to finish the duel right about now. I go ahead and start battle charging Griggs with Unending Resolve and Dark Soul up. And again though, even now, I'm not big on using Chaos Bolt. I stick to Incinerates to keep the Embers just flowing in. He ports to me around here, but I managed to silence him on his stun. Then we have a mini battle of Howl of Terrors and Unbound Wills. And as I'm ahead on health, Griggs is going to drop too low to recover, and that's going to let me take this win. Now there is a quick point or two that I want to make, a mistake I noticed I made in a few of the duels, including this one. Warlock v Warlock, you never want to be using your portal to chase the enemy Warlock while they're kiting. Right here, I get feared way out of position and take 2 Chaos Bolts to the head. I used Unending Resolve to counter some of the damage, but I go a bit crazy and use Dark Soul too while I have the Aura Mastery. The problem is, Griggs uses his portal very well and ports to Nigeria to avoid my damage. I'm desperate to get back on him while I have my cooldowns popped, so I use my portal to get in closer. And this was a huge mistake. I get silenced, I know he has Shadow Fury ready to go, but there is nothing I can even do to avoid it now, because my portal is on cooldown. The situation would also be a whole lot worse if he'd also had his Howl of Terror ready, and this just goes to show you really need to focus on using your portal to at least avoid or dodge Howl of Terrors. If you feel confident you can predict your opponent's Shadow Fury stun, by all means, try and portal dodge those too. It won't always work out, but when it does, you're going to save a lot of defensive cooldowns and probably trinkets as well. Now this next duel is against a Fire Mage, and this Fire Mage, called I Loves Ya, or I'm just going to call him I Loves, has a PvE trinket, and it's one of those that does PvP is dread. This trinket grants over 10,000 intellect when it procs, which is pretty much the same as 3 Grievous Gladiator on-use intellect trinkets combined, so with this, and it being a Fire Mage, I knew I had a challenge on my hands. iLoves did try and unequip this PvE trinket at one point. He wanted to switch to his PvP on-use trinket instead, but I told him he should leave it on. I didn't want to feel like I was nerfing someone who I was dueling. I wanted the full challenge, and that is definitely what I got. So as you can see here, I apply my buffs including Twilight Ward, then I right click them almost right away. There's a chance he will waste his best global spell stealing. He opens with a Polymorph now, and then scaring the hell out of me, dukes a Frostjaw. I do blanket him and Unbound Will, looking for some early control with a Fear, and this forces his Will of the Forsaken. He then Dragon's Breaths into a Frostjaw, into a Deep Freeze, and to my extreme dismay, he has the procs of Hansol on steroids right now. I pop Sacrificial Pact, I trinket the Deep, I pop my Shield Wall, I decide to Fear with the Aura Mastery, then I see my health and realise that my existence is very much conditional on popping my heals as soon as possible. I do that, I Ember Tap, then I throw out some Rain of Fires onto him and his mirror images for some speedy Ember generation, but after swallowing another Pyro, I also have to use that Ember on healing. Now iLoves has played this perfect here. He even Ice Blocks at the end of my Dark Soul and buys time while his cooldowns start ticking back, and this duel is pretty much already over. I have no Shield Wall, no Embers, no healing cooldowns, and most of all I have no trinket for his next Deep Freeze Shatter combo. I see him pushing in towards me here, so I portal away hoping to dodge a Dragon's Breath, but he is equal to it. I Blanket Silence him on the DB when it lands, and it breaks off of his mirror images in the end. Then I coil him on his Nova and get off a Fear. I really don't want to be a Deep Freeze target right here. I pop my second Dark Soul, lay another Rain of Fire. I'm after some Embers to heal with, but he's going to get one stun here, followed by a counter spell. And that's what a really good Fire Mage can do to a Destro Lock 1v1. I've already dueled a Fire Mage in the series. I thought it would be fun to spice it up with this one. I could show a win or a closer duel at least, but honestly, those only came around when iLoves made mistakes himself, so I don't want to show them. Fire Destro duels, I know from my duels with Hansol, are always really intense if both players are experienced, but Fire does undeniably have that instant, very early burst that is very hard to stop and very hard to heal through his Destro actually. As we saw in this duel, if you are outgeared in any way, even if it's only one PvE trinket, that burst can force every cooldown you have in just the first Deep Freeze. Again though, I was kind of asking for it. I said he should keep his PvE trinket equipped. I wanted to see how this would play out, and there were some things I could have done better. I feel like I didn't Mortal Coil early enough in a lot of the duels, and I maybe could have kited better, but it was definitely just a very tough matchup for me, and there was one clear winner in this series. The last duels of this episode are against another rogue, and there seems to be a ton of rogues applying to get in on this series for some reason. Anyways, these duels are against Stabby style, and the tactic I like to use against rogues in general, if you've watched any of the previous episodes, is to throw out a ton of CC really early, starting with a Pet Seduce on their opener. Then I use Blood Horror and Shadow Fury and sometimes Howl right after. This is just to keep on pumping out damage, get the rogue low while building those very early embers, and hopefully we can force an early cloak or a trinket. And right here actually is where I messed that part up. My Howl breaks here when my Incinerate damage actually lands after the Fear is applied, with Incinerate having a travel time. If he'd had to sit this Fear, he'd be much further away from me by now, and I'd probably be able to Chaos Bolt, and if he trinketed then that's still good too, but he has to deal with neither. This might seem like a small mistake, but because he wasn't feared away, he didn't need to use his Shadow Step, so when I portal away here, he's going to get right back on me, so I use my heals, he uses an offensive cloak to get up a full Rupture Bleed, and then he vanishes. Now I'm okay here, I'm not too worried, I still have my Unending Resolve and my control cooldowns are back as planned, but he did get my heals and I did overheal a chunk with an Ember Tap. So Stabby is going to go ham here with Shadow Blades. I spot this a little bit late and I should have been quicker popping my Unending Resolve, but I do get him in a Pet Seduce pretty quickly. He has his trinket ready for this though, but my control cooldowns are back, so I'm not in a huge amount of trouble just yet. Blood Horror into a Shadow Fury, and this time when I Howl I use the time to cast so the Fear puts some distance between us, and I manage to proc his cheat death. Then he vanishes, meaning it's time to clench my ass. I tried to accidentally on purpose portal his opener here, it doesn't work, he gets his opener, and despite the last second Sacrificial Pact, because of those two seemingly small mistakes earlier in the duel, not getting the most out of my first Howl and being too slow with my Unending Resolve earlier, I'm just not going to have the health to survive despite his cheat death debuff still lingering. This duel is an example of it going a little bit more right for me. Again, I start out with Pet CC followed by my own control abilities, Blood Horror to land some damage into a Shadow Fury to land even more damage with a Bolt of Chaos. I should have howled him right out of this stun. Maybe I could have got a trinket here, but for some reason I portal away and give him a chance to go offensive, which is going to force my heals. I knock him back here and I could have howled him about now as I didn't use it earlier like I planned, but I'm pretty sure he's going to trinket on that health, so I choose to land a Pet Seduce instead. He does trinket and then he blinds my pet. Right now I'm just waiting for Blood Horror to come back on cooldown. As soon as it does, I'm going to mash out my second sequence of controls, or at least that is what I thought. In my eagerness to take the win, I pop all of my cooldowns and, with the swiftness of a mongoose, immediately break my Blood Horror effect, because Blood Horror, even though it shares DR with other horror effects, breaks on damage just like a fear. And to my dismay, this gives Stabby the millisecond he needs to vanish. So this was a pretty massive mistake that could have cost me the duel. I'm sure that he's going to open on me, so I hit Unending Resolve before he can Garrett, but he chooses to smoke bomb up, and things get really sketchy here. When he dives out of the bomb, I trinket his kidney, manage to proc his cheat death, and by the grace of Sack Pact, I'm going to be able to see out the duel. But if anything, these duels should teach you to get the most out of your CCs, especially Blood Horror and Howl, as I screwed them up plenty in these two examples. Anyways, that's all we've got time for this episode of Duels. If you do want to take part in this series, feel free to inbox me with your battle tag and a link to your character's armory. And please do leave a like if you enjoyed the video, it really helps it spread. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to catch all of you next time.